Hello everyone to the Photoshop demo. Now I'll be using Photoshop CS6 in this demo, and also during the classes I'll be teaching you Photoshop CS6 as I found it to be the most stable version of Photoshop, as I had used other versions like Photoshop CC and CC17, but they tend to crash on my PC. But I don't know if that's a problem with my PC, or was it just the software that was defective. But I have time and time again switched back to Photoshop CS6. So that is the version of Photoshop that I personally trust the most. So about Photoshop, before we begin, you must have heard about Photoshop a lot, that you want to edit this, use Photoshop, you want to do that, use Photoshop, you want to put this texture, you want to try this effect, you want to make a matte painting, try Photoshop, do this, do that, do it on Photoshop. You must have heard of this a lot. But have you ever wondered what exactly does Photoshop offer you? How do you get so creative with just one software? Have you ever thought of it in that way? Now, if I tell you the answer to that question I would say that Photoshop offers you some set of tools which are specifically designed for you. If you're a designer, if you're a creative person, then Photoshop is the software for you. Like, I hate using any other software which has inbuilt templates. Like, there's Canva, there's Adobe Smart Photos, so some app by that name. So basically apps which use templates, okay, which uses templates. I just hate using those applications. I design my own posts, I design my own renders, I do my own designs solely on Photoshop, and I always am more comfortable on a blank screen than I am on a previously designed template on my screen. So with that being said, Photoshop is a tool which offers you a whole lot of functionality in the fields of photorealistic rendering, be it a rendered view of your interior. You can edit it, you can post process it to a to dramatic to achieve dramatic levels of realistic effect, and also to achieve dramatic levels of surrealism also in it. Now that is not it, okay. when when Photoshop comes into the picture, it's never it. Anything and everything is possible in Photoshop. It is just a matter of how much you know about the software, because it's got so many tools that through which you can achieve the same output. It's that it just comes down to how well you know the tools to operate Photoshop with greater ease, okay. And that is not to be taken lightly. The tools on Photoshop have been curated through past so many years. I mean, they have been improved, they have been altered, they have been removed from certain versions of Photoshop, they have been added. In every version there is something new. Now recently they've added this snapping feature, which is also a killer one, which I'll be telling you in the later classes of my in the later sessions of my class. But yeah, there is such a lot of things that Photoshop can do. If you are a it it is basically necessary. You need to know Photoshop if you are, I mean, if you are a designer, if you are a graphic designer, or if you are an interior designer or an architect or anyone related to the design field, or if you have any creative aspirations that you need to just let yourself out. You need to have Photoshop in your skill set all the time. If you're a photographer, you know very well the importance of Photoshop and post processing your pictures, your shoots, right? So it can make a lot of difference. And if you are a graphic designer, again, along with Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop is for you too. I mean, I have I don't know. I can't keep stressing it enough how important Photoshop is to a person who has a creative hint of creativity in them. It's just that you can let your creative juices flow on a blank piece of paper. You have a pen tablet and you have Photoshop on your screen. That could be like the best thing ever for you during this quarantine. All right, now, so that being said, let's begin with Photoshop. I'll just tell you the basics of how and what these tools are and I mean what these tools are and how they're used. Sorry. So let's begin with Photoshop CS6. Now now I have opened Photoshop. This is the blank screen that you will see in front of you when you open the software. Okay, over here you have one set of tools over here, another on the left hand side, another set of tools on the right hand side. Okay, there are smaller tool sets which you can find over here just next to that tray. Okay, minor settings you can find over here. There is a lot to do. I mean there is a lot of customizability options that you have when you talk about Photoshop. It is like a never-ending series of things that you can alter. Alright, in your image you can even create new things from scratch with utmost ease if you know your tools well. Alright, if I mean Photoshop is just something which you need to be a to be a pro at Photoshop does not mean you go into some class and just learning it and within 10 days within a month you're just a pro at it. No, it does not work that way with Photoshop. You need to keep sharpening your skills, you need to keep doing shit on Photoshop, you need to keep taking out time and keep doing tweaking with the software, keep experimenting with it to get to know it in a better way. It's basically that, because it so happens that you tend to forget Photoshop. I mean it is a difficult software to learn, but it is very much worth it. Once you get the hang of it, it is like you can never leave it. So you tend to forget the software, so for that reason you need to be in touch with it like continuously. Once you are adept with the software, then yeah, then that is the point in time that when you can go like, okay Photoshop, yeah, I can handle it. But before that, if you are like a beginner, or if you're just taking classes and doing my assignments, you won't be able to survive with Photoshop in your head, only in your head. You will need to keep on doing it, keep on rubbing your hands on it. You will need to keep on practicing it. All right. So in this demo, what I'll do, I was gonna teach you, I was gonna talk about how Photoshop can be implemented in our case, in the case of how architects can use Adobe Photoshop, right? So I'm not talking about the post process of views, or adding human figures in a view, or adding trees in a view. No, I'm talking about how to render plans, how to render for sections and elevations in, so that they look so realistic that you go like, okay, is this actually a plan, or is this something you've designed? I mean, you get that feel from it. So for that reason, I have already taken out a plan which I had designed for a client of mine, and let me just show you. It is a PDF actually. So this is the plan. This is my compound wall. I enter from here. This is the door, and I go in. This is the hall room, dining, kitchen. There's a toilet. There's a master bedroom. There's a common toilet attached with it. Sorry, attached toilet inside it. This one floor will be experimenting on with Photoshop. Now let me just import it in Photoshop. Now to import any given file, you can either click on file and click on import over there, or you could just click on file and click on import. I'm sorry, import over here, or you can just drag and drop it from a folder. That is a very easy thing to do. I mean, very comfortable thing to do once you get the hang of it. So let me just confirm this. Okay, this is the one. I just drag this and drop this over here, just like that. Now it is a PDF, right? So for a PDF, Photoshop always shows this dialog box which says which talks about the page setup of a PDF, right? Now had this PDF been of multiple pages, I would have been able to select the number of pages over here. Like this is only one page, right? If I import a PDF which says 7 pages, so I'll be able to select one page at a time. It gives me an option of selecting one page at a time, right? So I have my own preference in what page to get imported in Photoshop. So similarly, if I want 7 pages of all the 7 pages of that PDF, I'll need to import it like 7 times and select different page each time, so that I have all the collection of 7. Right, that was just an example. I mean, yeah, that it works that way, but yeah. So this, okay, now there's one thing that I need to take care to keep in mind, is that the output of the file, if I'll be printing this file like through a plotter, or if I'll be publishing it on an online platform, my output settings do change. Okay, now if I'll be printing this like through a plotter, if I'm printing this in a hard copy, I'll need to keep my color mode to be CMYK. All right, why I'm doing this is that is because the cartridges in a printer are not in RGB colors. They are in cyan, magenta, yellow, and these colors. Okay, so the cartridges, they work with those color sets. And just imagine you've been working on an RGB file all along, and you just take it to your plotter and you try to get a printout of it, and the colors, they come all wrong. Okay, and you're just sitting over there wondering, why is that white looking like a slight yellow, why is that red looking like a slightish like a slight crimsonish. So those things happen when your color modes get changed, or these things happen when your color modes are not appropriate. Okay, so that is why if you're publishing it online, or if it's gonna be on a screen all the time, okay, then you take an RGB color scheme. If it's gonna be in your hand as a hard copy, you take it to be a CMYK color scheme. You choose a CMYK color scheme for your uh, uh, design outputs. All right, so and then you come to the bit depth. I usually keep a 16-bit depth. That what is a bit depth? Now, what is a depth of a bit? It is basically how smoothly your colors will be transitioned from white to black. All right, now see, if you begin from white and end with black, there's a lot of color tones. There's very light gray, then there's lighter gray, then there's darker gray, and then there's even darker gray, darkest, then darker, then that goes up to the point when the gray is so dark that it is just one shade lower than black. So that is the whole palette between black and white. Okay, that is the tints, and those are the tints and shades that you need to take care of. So bit depth, what it does is it makes this transition in your designs of different color, the transition between different colors in your design smooth. All right, suppose you are somewhere, you're giving a gradient of say for example red to black. Okay, if your bit depth is less, you'll be able to see lines between those divisions of color. That is very undesirable, and that looks like very bad once you have the rendered output in your hands. So to avoid that, we usually keep a 16-bit bit depth. But in case you're working on a very huge file which doesn't require you to use a lot of gradients, which doesn't require you to use a lot of color schemes in your design, then you can reduce it to a 8-bit depth, as the 16-bit one consumes a lot of space in your hard disk, and your file becomes reasonably heavy. All right, so that being said, let's continue with it. I press OK over here, and this is important. Now, once I zoom in, I zoom in by pressing Alt and using the scroll button. All right. So once I zoom in, I'm seeing that I don't have a white background over here. Okay. Now why is that? And why are my lines so dull? I mean, what is the checkered background, you must be wondering. All right. So let me just turn this layer off. Now this checkered background is your sheet of paper. All right, now just imagine a sheet of paper without the white color on it. Okay, that is this checkered background. This is nothing but a transparent piece of background which is vacant throughout the end. There's no end to this. All right, now once I add a layer by clicking on this option over here and color it with white. All right, using the brush tool. These are the brushes that we usually get in Photoshop. Increasing the size of it. Once I color this in white, and then I'll lock the layer, and see, I have a white colored paper with me. So this is the file that I want to render, right? Render or whatever. Yeah, I make a presentation drawing out of it. So in this, what I will begin with is the selection of things, right? Like I need my walls to be a certain color, I need my flooring to be a certain color, I need my verandas and my outdoor utilities to be a certain color, I need my compound wall pavements to be a certain color, right? So let's begin by selecting the textures. Now what happens is that in Photoshop you need to use the magic wand tool to select these spaces. Okay, what this tool does is that it selects the it basically catches the color. All right, it basically catches the color that you want to select, and it replicates that selection throughout your entire file. Okay, so for example, I'm selecting this white color, right? So this white color is selected. Now this selection is, I hope you can see this dotted line that is moving along this point. So this selection does not extend this black line because it is a closed shape. Okay, so that's the concept of a selection tool, of the magic wand selection tool. So I am selecting these points over here. I have selected this point too. Now I have a background, I have a selection with my compound wall pavement, my outdoor pavement within it. All right, so let me just make a new layer. Now always have, as a good practice, we put newer textures on newer layers, because that makes it very easy for us to troubleshoot or edit or alter a file. Okay, suppose if everything is on a single layer, you cannot always keep selecting that. Okay, and once you delete something, it's permanently gone, you cannot get that back, as if you've just hidden it. It is not as good as hiding anything, right? So that is why you as a good practice, you use different layers for everything. Now I have prepared this new layer. Now all I want is to give it a new texture, right? So I have a few textures with me which I had saved earlier, because I use Photoshop a lot, like I said. So I use the pattern stamp tool. Okay, now what is pattern stamp tool? I press S. Okay, yeah, I select this layer, I press S, and basically I have a brush, okay, which acts with patterns on it. All right, like see, I have a brush which does this. How crazy is that? I mean, who could have even imagined that your brush could do this? So this is my pattern stamp tool, but I don't want this pattern, I want something else. So I have a few patterns which I had saved previously. Let's take this looks like a good pattern for a paving. No, yeah, this should do. The black stone is just best for all sorts of compound walls, all sorts of outdoor pavements. Or I can even or I can even convert it into a grass texture, and I can also reduce the opacity of this grass and make it, a bit more translucent and transparent also at the same time. So let's go ahead with this. Now now you got the process. I only have to keep making selections, and I have to keep applying textures. For example, this. Okay, now if you just look at it, I am not selecting the furniture right now in this video, as it will take a lot of time, and it gets very time consuming, and the demo class is supposed to be like half an hour max. So that is why I'll do some things that will save my time. So what I have done, I have directly saved a few textures which will help me, in rendering these spaces with ease and without losing a lot of time. So I have more time to tell you guys about greater things that are available with this software. So I have done this. Now I have another room to give a flooring to. Again, I go to the pattern stamp tool, click on a new layer, select the pattern stamp tool again, and here let me give a wooden flooring. Alright, That is the wooden flooring that I want over there. Now that is done. Okay, now see, I missed a spot over here. Alright, so let me just go back to this layer, select that spot, and again use the pattern stamp tool to give a texture to this, and it's done. Half of my house is rendered, right? Now let me again go back to the plan and now select the walls, because I need the walls also, right? The walls need to be black and stone gray in color. So I go back here and I select all the walls, all the okay, let's not select the compound wall right now. Okay, I press the new layer button, and using the brush tool I make it black. I paint it black. Okay, now that gives quite an attractive look to my design, to my plan. Okay, slightly reduce the opacity and make it look like it's dark gray in color. Yeah, now I need to just make the bathroom spaces. I need just to render these washroom spaces with a washroom colored tile. I mean, there's different tiles for that, you know that, right? So I go with this tile because I have this pattern saved. So actually no, that's not looking good. Let me just search my pattern collection. So these are all the vectors and all the tile patterns that I keep using on Photoshop. So what I have done is that I have made a folder strictly out of these things. It gets pretty easy if you want to, you know, render a few things and you have this in hand. Now I want to use the marble pattern. I'll just open it in a new file. Convert it into a pattern. I'll be teaching you how to convert images into patterns and how to make them into brush presets in my actual class, so I'm not covering those things over here, but you'll understand. So this is, now that this is done, I can select this pattern as my own and color this part as well. Now coming back to the utility area, coming back to the outdoor area, that and these two staircases. Okay, so over here I'm very free to apply this tile that I loved so much over there and over there, and actually it's not looking good over here, so let me not. This is just fine, and in this place let me apply this tile. Also over here let me apply the same tile. The entrance ratio of so what I am doing is I am overlapping the new color with the previous one. I'm doing that by moving the layer up. Okay, so now that this is done, I only need to put the pattern on the staircase now. But okay, there's many ways of doing staircases. I mean, some people do it from light to dark, some people give a gradient to it. I personally dislike giving any sorts of gradients in a what do you call it, a presentation drawing, because it makes it look very fake, and you know that look really doesn't come. But if you have a vision for it, anything always can be converted into a good design. So getting back to it, I press the S button, which gets me to the pattern stamp tool, and I have a texture for it. This one. So I have my staircase designed now, rendered now, and this is my plan. Okay, now what is remaining is I need to give shadows to the walls just to make them look like they're above the remaining structure and my compound wall. Alright, so for my compound wall, I just go again doing the same thing which I have just done previously. I go to the magic wand tool, I select that, I press on the vacant areas where I want my colors to be filled, and I go and press the brush tool so that I can fill color inside. Alright, now that is done. I have my courtyard, inside indoor courtyards, my outdoor I have my outdoor utility, my pavement, my compound walls, my indoor uh, tiling and whatnot. Okay, look, this is one wall that I have missed. This is exactly what I wanted to show you when I meant why to work in layers. Now, because I have worked in layers previously, I can quickly figure out, okay, what layer my plan was on and what layer do I need to give my new colors to, right? So I'll just use the black color, and in this previous layer it will automatically take the layers properties and appear as if it was never left out. So now this is the way we design a plan, make a presentation drawing, basically a gist of it. Now I'll just do one thing to make it look more realistic. I'll add a drop shadow to it. Right, the effect would be normal. Let this be 100%, the distance. Alright, spread would be increased, actually no, size would be increased. The angle is this much. Will the distance be 0? No. Alright, size is slightly increased. Alright, let's take this layer to the top of everything, and I have this. Now all that remains is a set of trees inside it. Okay, but don't worry, I have trees also with me. The trees, let me just search for it. This is one sort of a tree which I don't like. This is another. So let's just continue with that one. That's good enough. You see how I'm replicating these, right? Let me take this to the backyard too. And bring this below the wall layer. Right, now I need to get my compound wall on the top of these layers, because plants obviously cannot cross the compound wall just like that. So now that is done, all I'm remaining with is the road in front of my house, for which I'll just make a rectangle using the marquee tool and color this with black. Okay, now why black? Because I'll be reducing the opacity of this. Alright, I'll be making it gray, and that is done. This is my rendered house plan. And how much time did it take me to do this? Not even half an hour. This you can obviously achieve with a bit of a vision that you have already in your head when you design a plan. Also, you will need a slight amount of practice with Photoshop to reach this level of precision and cleanliness in your drawing, in your file, I'd say. All of my plants now need to be in the same layer, so I'll just select them and press Ctrl E. What that does is it merges them into one layer. Okay, but this process is not reversible, so don't do this unless you are absolutely sure you don't want them separately ever again. So now that is done, we are through with this plan, and almost at the end of the video. I hope you learned something new, and I hope a few concepts in your mind got clarified by looking at this. You can always create a lot of plans, and if you have any doubts in making these or doing anything you wish to with Photoshop, you can always contact me. I am available through Design Assist. I also have an architecture firm which is linked to that account. You can go there, contact me through that also. I'll be there for your guidance. Thank you.